Wendigo.
Hello and welcome to the Saladcast on Saturday the 11th of January 2020. I'm your host Dan Train. Join me today, Zachary Burgess.
On a potentially broken mic.
And Robert Kemp.
I fixed it as best I could.
You fixed it by just not really doing anything and then it suddenly started working better.
Yep.
Best
Which is not the best sign.
That's engineering, mate.
Yeah, I just fixed my guitar pedals in the same way. It wasn't working. Came back. Started working.
Or you literally just left it alone for a while.
Yes. Yeah, do nothing. That's the trick.
Yeah, I like that. I do like that. Well, it just sort of started working. I wish my some of my smart home stuff was a little. Well, it is a little like that sometimes. It's like we'll do the good night routine, and it just won't turn the lights off. It's kind of the primary part of the good night routine.
Right, yeah. What else does it do?
Well, it checks if all the windows are closed.
Oh, right.
And tells us if they are or aren't.
Does it then?
Sets the intrusion alarm.
If it tells you that the window's open, do you have to go and find it in the dark, or is it clever enough not to turn the lights off if there's a window open?
That's a good point, actually. No, it's not clever enough to. I hadn't thought of that detail.
You have to re-turn on the lights in order to go and close the window.
I should be. If I was really smart about it,
Smart home.
Yeah, I mean, I could turn on the lights on the path to the specific window.
Yeah.
Or you just do the window check before you turn the lights off.
And then bail.
Well, yeah, so the reason I don't do that is because the logic to turn everything off is actually defined in the Alexa app, so it's like that's nice and easily accessible, rather than having to write it into my pistons, which are actually where the if statement is, but the window check statements.
What's it called? Pistons.
Pistons,
so
yeah.
Service. Like an
yeah, kinda. It's this thing called Web Core that you can put onto a SmartThings hub.
Web.
And then through Web Core you can define some. Well, it's got a very basic sort of basic language, and you can use that to define some fancy rules. Zach's dying.
I didn't get this all out before the start of the podcast, apparently.
You have to turn your home into a Factorio factory. Then Zach will program it for you.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but that's not actual programming, though.
It pretty much is. You have to...
Only if you can make commands like physical objects that trundle around on conveyor belts.
I mean, they are physical objects, right? Not the commands, but the at least that's one step towards it. The windows and the lights.
Yeah, true. Don't have to put those on conveyor belts, though. They stay where they are. But they're like the factories and the storehouses.
The Internet of Fangs.
Or the alien guns.
Well, they're more like mines. Like, they give you the information. Like, they mine the information out of nothing.
But then you put the gold back in it when you want to...
Well, yeah, but then you get the information out, and then you have to run it through some kind of factory, and then you put different information in. Like the fuel for the miners.
You fill the hole back up.
This is a terrible analogy.
Yep, it's not working.
Maybe Dwarf Fortress be closer. I bet in Dwarf Fortress, dwarves have trouble trying to find the window to shut if the lights are off.
Yeah, I bet. Bet dwarves have trouble doing literally anything. Pathfinding not good. Or sometimes too good, maybe. Very direct.
I found the shortest route possible. No, but you're walking through... all the lava.
All I want is that sock that's lying on the floor outside in the middle of a battlefield.
I mean, you need that sock back.
My favourite sock.
Yeah.
It's a sock that you've literally only just learned is your sock because the previous owner just died in the fight. That's how dwarves work.
I like how, I'm imagining that dwarf just sort of looking up with shifty eyes now, going, "Oh, there's my sock. I must acquire it now."
It's not like you can. That it's like theoretically that dwarf wouldn't even be able to see the sock. It's just like he's sitting somewhere just underground in one of the caves, just sitting there, and he suddenly looks up and is like, "Shit, I need to get my socks," and then he just runs outside.
Which is inherited, presumably. Is it
like He's like a sock psychic.
Yeah, exactly.
Is it like
The
a
ownership
family
is just
member's
transferred.
sock, or how
No,
does the
it's
inheritance work?
It's
Is it
just like because when the previous owner dies, the sock becomes available. Then
The
someone else who
drawer.
doesn't have socks at the moment is like, I can wear socks now, and then they automatically just know where the socks are.
even if it's in the middle of a giant fight?
Yep, even if it's 100,000 meters underground.
So they wouldn't just go to a sock pile in your base. They'll be
Well,
like,
they would if there is a sock file in your face.
right, but they'll be like, oh, I see socks over the mountains and far away. My quest, and I choose to accept it, is to go find yonder mountain sock.
Yes.
On the sock.
That's why
How
you
many-
never make clothes and just let everyone be naked all the time.
Naked dwarves.
How many socks did you get for Christmas?
I only got a jumper.
None?
That's my clothes. For the year.
Yeah, I didn't.
Okay, I only got one pair this year. But they are
I
like
like a nice pair of socks.
yeah. Well, these
I
are
did have a
happy
moment
socks, so they're
over
like
sort
kinda
of the Christmas
artists.
period where I was like, I could totally go for a pair of those stupid slipper socks, mainly because my current slippers are like wearing out. I was
Slipper
like, I could
socks?
get a new pair of slippers, but
Do they have
slipper-
like grip on the bottom? Or
Yeah, they
are
have
not-
grip, like rubber grips on the bottom of the sock, and they're extra thick.
Right.
Like
keep the heat in.
toasties, whatever they used to be called.
Hmm.
But like, I was thinking about that because every time that I've had to get a new pair of slippers, I just can't find ones that fit the way I want them to. Which is why the pair that I'm currently wearing are like super wearing out now, because it's like I've had these for so long because they're the only pair we can find that actually fit.
I think for me, slippers has always been one of those things where it's just like I know when I'm going to get old, when I'm feeling older, when
Well,
when I'm actually going to want to put slippers on. And this year, the thought crossed my mind. It's
Why
like we
wouldn't
might
you
be
want
there.
slippers? Like
I
cold
never
feet
wear
can
slippers.
happen to young people. Can't
yeah, I don't know what the fuck is up with Rob because
I
he
don't
like
like-
he has fucking laminate wood floors in his house, not even carpet.
I don't really
It's like, how do your feet possibly survive
I
at any time of
I
year?
just don't really like having footwear on in my house.
That's why they're slippers. It's not like you're wearing shoes.
I know, but they're
Yeah.
It's distinctly
shoes
different.
enough. It's like I used to have, like Lorenz got me some slippers a couple of times when I was a kid, and I just never really wore them.
Well,
because
you
it's
didn't
not
need them
into
in your childhood home because you had carpet everywhere.
Oh, I suppose, but I don't really
Although, to be honest, you probably should have worn them because that carpet wasn't,
good.
clean.
Yeah.
Clean.
And you also had a dog.
Yeah.
I've
Perhaps.
managed to find slippers that my brother had spare that he brought home for Christmas, not this year but last year, and they've done me because they're like, I don't know what brand they are, but they've got sheepskin inside, and that seems to be the trick to make them warm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That can help with like getting them to fit better as well because the
Yeah.
sheepskin gives it a lot of extra padding that you just sort of wedge
Yeah.
into.
Exactly.
I think-
yeah.
I think my brain misassociates me having warm feet with me having sweaty feet, right? Because if I
Yeah.
like, I know during summer,
Well, that's the-
right,
that's-
and it's hot, like and my feet are like warm and stuff like that for some
Yeah.
reason, even without socks or anything, they just feel
Well,
warm.
that's the
And
thing,
then
isn't
I
it?
rub my toes together. They feel clammy and orange. And then I actually go and like feel them with my hand and be like, are they really that gross? And they're not. They're not that gross. They're just dusty and stuff.
mean, that
because
is-
summer.
The other trouble that I have with slippers is like finding ones that don't make your feet too hot. Because if you go too far and they're like too insulating, then you do start getting the sweaty feet, and it's
Sweaty
like that's no
feet,
good
yeah.
either.
Oh, I'm not saying I don't. I get the sweaty feet. I don't get sweaty feet. The problem is that it's just like it feels like sweaty feet. And I
Well,
don't- and I
surely
don't like
you should
that.
feel like sweaty feet more when you're walking around barefoot on your laminate floors in the summer, because that's like what is that should cause the more sweat. You don't have the absorbent layer of any other textile in between it.
No, it's just wiping all over the tiles. Though.
Yeah.
that I can then. As I
Condensation.
say, I don't really get sweaty. I don't really get sweaty feet. It's not really a thing.
Then slippers will work.
Yeah, well, yeah, but
you
I'll
don't need
still
them.
but I'll feel like I have sweaty feet.
Not if you get the precise, correct kind. That's the trouble.
Can I get some aircon in my slippers?
I'm just looking at these ones, and I don't know. The brand seems to be Shepherd, which makes sense because they're sheepskin. But like,
Shepherd.
just on the back, they just have a Swedish flag. I don't know if
Like,
they're like
well-
from IKEA or something.
Maybe. But then they'd be called like Shepskiloff or something, like, whatever is Swedish for shepherd.
I'll have to Google this, but anyway, recommend these.
Footshot. The ancient Swedish word for slippers. Footshot. Ancient Swedish gets me out of that. Right? Yeah, okay.
It's not racism if everyone you're talking about is dead already. Not sure that is 100% correct, but okay.
Shepherd of Sweden.
So it's like the Swedish chef now technically racist.
I think it was always racist. I don't think that was ever not racist.
Because I always get a little bit like, I don't know. There's we've talked about this before, I'm sure, but there's that fine line between a stereotype and a full-on racist.
Well, okay, if you're going to try and make a definition between that, but...
yeah. It's like when people talk like Cockneys, or pretend to talk like Cockneys.
It's not race though.
Well, neither is Swedish, really.
Well, yeah,
kinda.
Sort of, I guess, but they're not that different. We're all
humans, man. We're all one race, yo.
You can't be racist because everyone you're talking about is a human. That's the best excuse ever.
Yeah, dog. If you're a dog, then maybe. You're a dog. Is there any news?
No, that's why we've just gone off on one about slippers. Unless you want to get into the film section immediately.
The film section, well, sort of yes, but sort of.
Well, how long do we have to wait for spoilers?
I mean, we can do it at the end of the podcast, and then we can spend as long as we want doing it.
I don't know who's racist against dogs, but I think that film Cats might be racist against cats.
You reckon?
Yeah, it's pretty weird looking. I don't know.
Oh, did you see it?
No. But I'm tempted because I've heard how insane it is.
Yeah, Noam saw it. She gave it a sort of it's okay kind of thing. I think she enjoyed it because musicals, but and the fact that they tried to string a story together into something that is inherently not a story, right?
No, it's just a series of cats introducing themselves and singing a song about themselves and then sodding off.
Yeah. It's pretty much what, in fairness, I do feel like that's accurate to what a cat would do.
Yeah, fair.
Walk into a room, meow a bit, and then bugger off and shat on your mat.
Yeah. Except it's Taylor Swift in cat form.
Someone somewhere on the internet is now saying that she can shit on my mat.
Yeah, I'm guaranteeing. And that someone is Rob. Because he just said it.
Yeah, it looks nuts, but I don't know.
Yeah.
It's the fact as well that no, I think because there's two versions of it floating around already. There's this. Really? Well, yeah, because the version supposedly that was originally released, and it was the one that made the was it the Oscars board or something like, or Golden Globes or something like that, put it up for best VFX or something like that, wasn't even complete on the VFX side. Like they hadn't finished it yet, and that version supposedly is in a few places. And even while Noam was watching it, she was wondering. It's like I don't know if it was completely done. There were
finished
bits where it looked the effects looked like wrong and off, and I mean that's true.
That might just be it.
Yeah, but it's just like there were certain details where it's like, oh, they didn't shop out the wedding ring on one of the characters' hands, when they're married in real life, but probably not in the film, and that kind of stuff.
If you're an actor, surely you just take that off.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it'd be a detail a VFX artist would deal with normally.
Wouldn't have to deal with normally.
Or that as well.
Yeah, I think normally actors probably remove their jewelry when they're playing roles in movies. But there you go.
Yeah. So yeah, there's a second version with more work done to it. They patched a film.
Not to the extent that they've patched Sonic, though.
No, that's true. Well, they stole. I stole that phrase off Kotaku. That's how they describe cats. It's like the patch the film. Anyway, any other films about?
Any other films that anyone's
Any
seen?
other film that we want to talk about but probably can't really?
Yeah, that Star Wars, yo.
I saw a film with Adam Driver that was really good.
That was not that Star Wars, yo.
Yeah, it's called Marriage Story. It's on Netflix. Yeah, really good. Depressing divorce drama. Yay.
Good.
And with Scarlett Johansson, who is also really good. I've always really liked her. Then the supporting cast is like Laura Dern from The Last Jedi and Jurassic Park, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And Alan Alda, he's good in it. And Ray Liotta.
Okay.
Yeah, as like divorce lawyers, basically. Yeah, if you want a sort of small movie that's probably going to win Oscars, check that out because it's pretty damn good.
All right.
I think Adam Driver might be my favorite actor working at the moment.
It is pretty good. I'll give him that. He's got an enjoyable face.
It's an interesting face. It's not your average face.
And he sounds good with that Kylo mask on.
Yeah.
that creepy voice is way better than when he takes it off.
It's cool. Yeah. But probably best in The Force Awakens than in anything else.
Yes.
Like a lot of things about this trilogy. Yeah.
Yes, most things were better in the first film.
So, is it even possible to talk about The Rise of Skywalker in a non-spoilery way?
I mean,
No.
you can say your general.
Well, that's what Dan did
feeling.
last time.
Other time. Yeah, which we now agree with.
Yeah.
Having seen it, it is fine.
I mean, my feeling was like I kind of enjoyed it while watching it because I didn't have very high expectations, and it was spectacular enough or whatever. And I was like, well, I know that dumb things are going to be in this because I've seen the trailer, and I know that the Emperor's back, which is already really stupid, and at least we're going to get some fun prequel memes type fun out of the Emperor, which we did. But then afterwards, it's like the more you think about it, the more stupid literally everything in the movie is. Yep.
There are wide open plot holes that are just and unresolved strings that were probably done intentionally, maybe not. And it's just there's just details here and there where you're just like, okay, so sorry, what? How did they get there? And why is this thing here? And how? I mean, there's a lot of people here, and and now this does that now. Okay, that's new.
And there's a lot of talk now about like, okay, well, at least The Last Jedi was like trying to be different, which obviously was the thing at the time, and I did like appreciate some of the stuff in The Last Jedi, but like,
sure, I think we said that at the time that it's like, okay, yeah, it's nice that they didn't follow the pattern.
But there were bits in The Last Jedi when I was watching it in the cinema where I was like feeling embarrassed watching it, like that. It starts with the Star Wars film starts with a prank phone call. I mean, and then fucking Leia flying through space like Mary Poppins, and like all of that, and the low speed like chase is so stupid. Everything with Poe's like storyline where he's like, for some reason the commander won't tell him the plan, and he has to learn a weird lesson about leadership that makes no fucking sense. And
then a huge side plot that serves no purpose other than to drive the plot into a more dire situation.
Make things worse by going to Las Vegas where they have like the kitty races from Grim Fandango for some reason. I mean, it's like I get that people are saying they're definitely people watching The Rise of Skywalker are now pointing at The Last Jedi saying, see, that was doing some, although it was weird, it was doing some cool stuff, and it had.
I mean, like visually, like it's an impressive film. There are parts of that are really really nice to look at, but it's just the way it's all structured and the way it's put together doesn't make any sense at all.
Yeah. So I'm not now reevaluating The Last Jedi and saying I like it, because I still don't like The Last Jedi, even though it has some good. I appreciate that Rian Johnson was trying to do, like, he was trying to make it so that Rey came from nowhere, and that was a whole point, that anyone could become a hero, and he had that thing at the end with the kid with the broom and everything.
I think we all knew the story was never going to be that.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? So now this movie is like crazily retconning everything from the last movie constantly, hilarious. Like, but at the end of the last movie, the entire resistance is like meant to be basically on one ship. They're like all dead. And then at the start of this movie, they've got like a little forest base, and they've got a whole blockade runner and a bunch of.
But they're in theory still not very big, and then
No.
suddenly like they seem bigger when it seems required.
Yeah, just
You know what I mean? They just grow weirdly.
It just makes no fucking sense.
Yeah.
Almost nothing in this new one makes any real sense when you start thinking about it. And then I'm thinking, well, maybe would I even bother to watch it again? Maybe not.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, eventually, I'm sure. But...
Yeah, maybe.
I know. So yeah, you guys know Matt, who's been on the early episodes of this very podcast a couple times. He's seen it like 3 or 4 times now,
Right?
And he came back with I think he liked it the second time the most, because the first time he was going into it with trepidation, being like this can't possibly be good, and he's like overanalyzing everything as he's watching it.
Whereas I was going in thinking I don't really care at this point because of the
exactly
movie.
Same here. I was I was hopeful something could happen that would turn it around, but I'm not looking at it expecting it to be the next Matrix or whatever. It's just just what a good time, a sub Marvel good time, and I got that. In fairness,
the Leia stuff didn't quite work.
Oh no, the way they had to cut that together, that was very really obviously cut together, right?
Yeah,
it's like, she can only say vague statements around the conversation. She can't actually drive the conversation.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, that was an incredibly difficult thing to do, but maybe you could have, I don't know.
Yeah.
If you used the VFX artists that know not to move the top lip, like they did with young Leia a couple times, it's like, and get a decent facsimile voice actor, maybe you could have made something work.
So I think in general it was like kind of impressive watching J.J. Abrams try and steer the ship completely around 180 towards something more like what he was going for in The Force Awakens.
Yeah,
but it
that was
did they
50% of the film is just like abrupt direction change for every little thing that the middle film did.
I mean, it's kind of amazing that they didn't. I mean, I imagine the reason they did this was that Abrams might have been busy with some other projects and so couldn't have done the second. But
he didn't. He did it on purpose. That's the thing, and it's really
I think they were
that's the most annoying
have 3
thing.
different people, right?
Yeah, they
wanted to make it an interesting thing.
Exactly, that was the plan. And it's the thing about JJ is like he deliberately set things up that he had no idea where they were going. There was no plan. It's obvious, and he just wanted to do one movie and get out. And
sure, because otherwise, how would? Wait, that makes that. I mean, that bit makes total sense, but because that explains why it went in a different direction with the second film, a different direction again with the third. It's like, okay, fine, I can see that.
But he should have just worked with what he got.
But it's like, Well, if they're not the consistent part of the trilogy, why are they given that level of control anyway? I mean, they're the directors, but there's a point where it's like, if you're not going to be here the entire time, it's like you need a linchpin, and that linchpin didn't seem to exist.
No.
Well,
and it's like the writing
as well. A story that wasn't made of the directors. They needed a framework story that then 3 different directors could make the 3 parts of.
Exactly.
In a slightly different style or something.
Yeah, if they had kept some core writing.
I guess what the framework story they did have was just the story of the previous 3 films.
Because exactly. So Lawrence Kasdan was the screenwriter of The Empire Strikes Back, and he wrote The Force Awakens. I think obviously he's getting on a bit. But he was like one of my, he was doing I think JJ told him to do a soft reboot, so that's what he did. But then he wasn't involved from then. Rian Johnson wrote The Last Jedi, and I think JJ wrote this, which shows that it's not written by the guy that wrote Empire Strikes Back. Exactly, Zach. They should have had a plan for the, sketched out. It didn't have to be
It's kind of baffling that. And we said this as we were walking out of the cinema, that it's baffling that they take something as big as Star Wars and just don't really show the care that it feels like. It is possibly the biggest franchise, right?
Especially when, because
aside from maybe Pokemon. Pokemon's huge, but
no, it's the MCU, and that is planned, and that is Disney. Like, it's the same theoretical people, but they're obviously not, right? But that is organized, right? They have a sketch plan for everything going on in the MCU, right? And then they fill in the that's what they should.
I mean, that's what the phases are, right? They know exactly what they're up to.
Yeah,
they were kind of helped with that one, thanks to like just the massive background of all the comics, though.
Yeah.
They kind of already had a pre-written story for quite a lot.
They're all interpretations of. None of them are literally the comic stories, are they? They're all adjusted.
No, the way the MCU connects is pretty different. In like, it has beats. Let's put it that way from the comics, but no one movie is like a comic series. Really, it's like even Infinity War, and like it follows the idea and has its iconic moments, but the flow is wildly off.
Like Civil War is massively different from Civil War in the comics. Like,
oh sure, right.
There's only a few bits that are kind of combined. Themes from the Civil War. But they
do it well, because you can, like, with books and other mediums, it's like that. You can have way more of these other ones that wouldn't necessarily translate. Like you could pull that. You can pull more comic book style flows off in TV better than you can films. Yeah. But they're trying. It's like the MCU's weird, isn't it? It's like halfway between a series and between TV and film, and it's great. They made it work.
So why is it?
They have a plan. Why is Star Wars not planned? It's it's Star Wars.
Given that it's not planned, and JJ now needs to basically do 2 films in one, turn it around and retcon everything, why does he spend the first, like, easily half of the movie running around collecting MacGuffins at random planets and introducing new characters that have about 3 lines each? Like, who? Zori Bliss? What? Like the girl that looks like the Mass Effect character. What's her name?
Who is Zori Bliss?
She's like the pose, because they introduced a girl love interest for Poe to make sure that the Chinese audience don't think he's gay, right? And they introduce a second girl love interest for Finn to make sure the Chinese audience don't think he's gay, even though they already had one in the last movie who just hangs around on the base doing nothing, who literally kisses him at the end of the last movie. And she's just like, "Oh, you hang out at the base. We'll like introduce a new character who's the same as you but female, because she's a stormtrooper who was."
Now we're into spoilers.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, that's not really a spoiler. That's a non-essential spoiler.
But they they randomly add these characters that don't add anything really. The only one that does is Babu Frick, who is obviously the best thing.
He's the coolest. Yeah, he's absolutely the coolest.
And actually, like, the C-3PO stuff was good, I think.
Yeah, that was actually quite nice. That was a neat. Like most things with this film, I think they could have been bolder with it and made that more of a thing. Like, maybe have that whole bit happen like earlier, and have them dealing with C-3PO's memory loss actually like a returning thing throughout the film.
Yeah.
It's just it just be able to be undone pretty much.
Yeah, well, and then it just doesn't really
like everything in this movie.
Yeah, it just doesn't really matter. No. Is the thing. It's like there's no gravity to it.
Well, apparently it doesn't matter that the Emperor got murdered at the end of Return of the Jedi, right? Because he's back.
I mean, sure, yeah. It's just like
he's allowed to have magical powers, though.
I guess, yeah.
This film has ideas that never pay off. I think that's my biggest problem with it. It's like there are bolder things they could have done. There are bolder things that they set up, and they just don't. They don't go with it. They fall back to the safety, or they ignore it completely. And it's just like, oh, okay, this is like video game writing.
Well, basically, I mean, I think it is true that The Last Jedi had better ideas. I just didn't like the execution. I think it had some really good ideas in The Last Jedi, but it just didn't. I really like in The Last Jedi the kind of Rey Kylo Force telephone call thing. And
I don't. I think that's actually one of its biggest problems. It's like, not because the idea is bad, but the execution of it is so. They made it teenage angst rather than
a little bit,
rather than actual like.
But Kylo is
progression.
Teenage angst.
I know, but it's like it just doesn't. I think it pays. Like, that's one of the concepts that actually works well. I think in this one, it finally got to a place where
Yeah.
it needed to be. That style of communication.
He did reuse
But-
that like quite well, but he added the element of like, is this spoilers? But they can now transmit physical objects through this.
They could do
connection,
that in the last film, though.
Oh, could they?
Oh,
He,
did that happen?
he gets wet when she's
Oh,
standing
yeah,
by
yeah.
the sea
Oh,
on the island. He gets splashed with water.
Yeah, I think that's really
That's a good
cool,
point.
actually,
That's cool.
and how they transferred in the middle of fights and things like that. It's like that stuff's really actually
Yeah, it was
that's
kind of cool.
that's a cool idea and done well, actually. And it's
I mean, it doesn't make any fucking sense, but it's cool.
yeah, it's proper cool.
I liked how
there are some things I'm willing to overlook for cool.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
I
It's
thought
like,
it was
who
okay.
cares?
Like, I
Yeah.
thought it was fine when he just got wet, but when it's like this entire helmet suddenly ends up somewhere completely different.
Or this like,
It's like-
necklace thing that's the MacGuffin, or like more important things.
It was fine when it was just like you could excuse the wetness as being like
Yeah.
a sensation, not
Yeah.
like an actual physical thing.
Oh, I see
Yeah, I
what you mean.
agree.
Right,
I agree. It works better in The Last Jedi, I think. But yeah,
Because now, like, now I'm just imagining it's like if the Jedi ever come back into power and they're the force that they used to be, it's like now they've got some kind of
Teleportation network.
they've got some excellent delivery system. They'll be like Jedi courier service. Death Stranding could do with one of those.
I
Just
mean,
have a
they
Jedi on it or two. You need two.
Well, yeah, apparently.
they added the healing power thing. I noticed that they released the Mandalorian episode that week early, which has the healing power in, so that you see that in the show before going to see the movie if you're a big fan, which was kind of cool. But that makes sense. But I like how so.
I mean, it's just another space magic. I'm okay with
it's
that.
totally fine. I
Yeah.
think the original Star Wars movie, when they talk about spice, I think that's a reference to Dune, right? Because Dune the book came out in like 1965 or something, and I think that was probably the most popular sci-fi. Well, at the time, it was a big hit, Dune, like that book, and won the Hugo Award and stuff like that. So I think when they talk about the spice mines of Kessel or whatever. And that's basically Han is a spice smuggler, right? Basically, and he drops the cargo for Jabba the Hutt, and that's why he's in trouble with Jabba the Hutt.
The spice,
like I think the spice must flow. So I think it's a reference to Dune. But then this movie, not only does Poe Dameron admit that he's a spice runner, drug mule, but then they have a literal sandworm. Which I'm hoping is another Dune, is more of a Dune reference, because there's going to be a Dune.
But it's
film
not a
this year.
huge sand.
No,
And it's not
but-
related to spice in any way.
No, but
It's
you
just
know,
a sandworm.
I think it's like
It's not like it's not like
know,
Star
no.
Wars didn't already have the Sarlacc, which is basically
That's
a
true.
sandworm.
well,
Is
I guess.
Abrams working on that Dune reboot?
It's Denis
like-
Villeneuve, so I'm
Oh
hopeful.
yeah,
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's
Yeah,
why there
it
was
makes-
hype there.
It makes total
I remember
sense.
now.
Yeah, that's gonna be a big one, and end of the year hopefully. I'm hyped for Dune.
As I think I mentioned many times, never actually really liked the original. It didn't the film.
No,
the
well,
original
the film is all messed up. It's a David Lynch film,
Yeah.
and he disowned it because but it's a great world from the books and stuff. So I'm very hopeful that they'll make a good. Denis Villeneuve will make a good version.
Yeah, and they're doing it in 2 parts.
Yeah. But yes, so Rise of Skywalker. Yeah, just watch The Mandalorian because it's really good.
Is it even possible to legally get Disney Plus in the UK yet?
Not yet.
So how?
No,
I mean,
okay,
yeah, exactly. It's just one of those things. It's like, how can actually people watch this?
Yeah.
Cultural phenomena.
It's coming, I suppose. Yeah, that last episode was pretty good. Directed by Taika Waititi.
Whoop, whoop.
Yeah.
You got that. His other film's coming out soon, isn't it?
Oh, Jojo Rabbit is out, I think.
Oh, it's out now.
I think it's out. Yeah, people have seen it. I haven't seen it yet. It's got mixed reviews, but people I know.
It's weird, isn't it?
liked
But
it.
like, yeah, it sounds like it could be good fun in its own strange way.
I need to see Little Women as well because it's Greta Gerwig. And I like. What was Lady Bird? That was good.
Oh right, Lady Bird was Saoirse Ronan, wasn't it?
No, I mean the director.
Oh, right.
But she's in it too, Saoirse Ronan.
Oh,
I think
okay.
She's in Little Women as well. Yeah. Yeah.
That's
film
it. That's your
section.
film section, replacing news because there's not a lot
Because
of
there
news.
ain't no news.
Well, there's one bit of news.
There's one bit.
Go
Well, I
on,
suppose
Doug.
there's one
What's
bit.
going on in video
Technically,
games?
2 bits of news.
Yeah, technically, multiple bits of news contained inside one bit of news, I guess. Because the first Nintendo Direct of the year happened, except it's not actually a Nintendo Direct, it's a Pokemon Direct. It's just uploaded to Nintendo's channels.
Right. Here's an update to
Pokemon.
Pokemon. Yeah. They call them Smash Directs when we get like the Sakurai's like character
I don't think.
things.
Yeah, those often just happen after regular Directs, though. It's just like, here's an extra bit where we just go and talk to Sakurai.
Yeah, I suppose that in the main Direct they reveal the character.
Well, that's
and
what they've
then-
done a couple of times, yeah.
Yeah, and then go off and have this extra video.
But anyway, so before this Pokemon Direct happened, I did see some speculation where it's just like, well, if this is the Nintendo Direct for January, that must mean the last Smash Brothers character is a Pokemon, right? Because they've got to announce that here because February's coming and that's when it's meant to happen.
God, yeah.
But luckily, no. So the last Smash Brothers character is not a Pokemon, and we still don't know what it is. But the Pokemon Company came along to say,
Well, they've all been crossover characters, haven't they? Other than
well, yeah, that's why I was thinking, like, if it is a Pokemon, it's going to be hella disappointing.
yeah,
It's just like, you can't have these other epic 4 awesome characters where it's just like, all these characters people have been asking for, and then at the end it's just, and a Pokemon.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with Nintendo putting another Nintendo character
Sure.
in, really, but it's like,
but
yeah,
not
when
as
you-
part of the Fight Pass.
Yeah.
Save that for the next round of DLC if
Yeah.
you want to add another Pokemon.
Well, I think if they were going to do that, they should put it in the middle of the season as well. Right, sort of like just chuck it in the middle,
Well,
like where
maybe.
no one's really paying attention.
Everyone's always paying attention. So yeah, the Pokemon Company came to say several things. The first of which that they led with was, I was momentarily excited and then sort of disappointed. Because it was like, oh, it's Mystery Dungeon, except it's just a remake of the first Mystery Dungeon. And I can confirm by having played not even all of
Yeah.
the demo yet, it's pretty much exactly one of those games.
Well,
Which is why I'm disappointed.
This game's never changed, right? That was the
Well,
problem.
yeah, that's the problem. And going back to the first game, this one, I mean, I guess I've never played the first one, so I don't know, but it seems like it probably still functions the same as it did from what I know about the first game compared to the newer ones. And maybe there's some stuff in this one where it's been like updated in the remaster or whatever.
No, right. So the remaster might actually just bring that one to be more like the newer
Yeah,
ones.
to be
anyway.
more like the newer ones. But like not advancing the formula at all.
Right,
Which is
yeah.
what I really want. But yeah, it's just like, well, I was momentarily excited and then less excited. But I guess since I haven't played that game, it is still technically new, but not like, because I know it's and also, as I said, from the 2 games I have played, the story is always the same. So, so I'm just like, this is probably, I think I'm looking at probably the exact same story again as well, not just even the gameplay being the same. I don't know. I would have preferred a new one, even if it had been the same story and the same mechanics. I wanted a new one. Because that gives them an opportunity to actually do something new, not just port new things into an old version. So there's that. And also the art style's kind of weird. They like made it weird. I don't know, like it's not like it's an updated from the original version's graphics, because this was a Game Boy game.
Right.
But there's like this weird sort of pastel painterly style that I'm not sure
Oh,
looks that
interesting.
great.
Yeah.
Like they tried, but I don't think they pulled it off that well.
It's different for a Pokemon.
Well, kinda. I mean,
I'm not sure it's as different as the entirely cube Pokemon thing, whatever that was.
yes,
The mobile game.
yeah, Quest. Yeah, I don't know. So that's that, I guess. That will probably be far too expensive for what it is as well, obviously, because
Yeah,
it's
clearly.
Pokemon.
Pokemon sells.
And speaking of Pokemon selling, second thing they announced is, you remember how in previous Pokemon generations you'd get the 2 games, and then if you were smart, you'd wait until the 3rd game came out, and you'd be like, okay, now I can get the finished version.
This is the good one.
This is the good one.
Well, and they're like actively patching the current one, which is, I suppose, relatively new. They didn't
Yeah,
do that all that much.
That's why I'm coming to that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Because you remember how you used to wait for the 3rd game, and you get that, and you'd be good. Well, fuck that shit. Now it's expansions.
Oh, I see what you mean. Right, okay.
Oh,
So now you can't even have been smart and waited for the third game. You now have to buy the base game and the DLC for nearly double the cost of a regular game.
So we're not going to get like Helmet Edition.
No. You are going to get the Island of Armor, which is one of the new areas they're adding in the DLC.
which is Ireland, is it?
Maybe it has it sort of has a bit like Japanese style buildings on it, and it's like why?
Okay.
Why is this suddenly Japan again? This island off the coast of England is now Japan again suddenly.
Okay. Because people love Japan.
And then there's the second part of this expansion pass is the tundra, which I don't know where that's meant to be. Presumably Scotland. But they already had part of that in the game. They already had an icy area. So it's just more
Scotland.
More ice. So yeah, I don't know. It's like, you've already paid 45 or more quid for the base game. Now pay another 30 quid for the expansion to actually, and also to
30 quid
to be able to get all the Pokemon that they didn't put in the base game, because a lot of them are coming in the expansion as well.
Oh right, so what, filling in the gaps edition?
But not all of them.
Right.
Still, just some more of them. And God, it's just terrible.
Is the expansion got a name?
I don't think so. I think they just said it's
The
just
expansion.
the Isle of Armor and the northern whatever tundra, and it's just an expansion pass. It's called.
Okay.
So yeah, get ready to pay even more money, and also if you so they're putting in a bunch more of the Pokemon that they didn't already have, because of course they would. But they're not fully locked behind the paywall because they're patching them back into the original game, but you can't catch them in the original game.
Oh,
you can
weird.
just trade for them.
Oh, right.
into the original game.
You can trade them into the original game, but you can't catch them. But they're going to appear so they're not going to appear in the wild at all?
No, not in the original game.
Okay.
They're only going to be in the new areas.
That's odd, but
it's
okay.
Very odd. But then they're like, but wait, now that we're adding all these new Pokemon that you can add to your Pokedex, now you can use Pokemon Home to bring them over if you pay yet another subscription fee. If you pay even more money, you can get those Pokemon a different way. If you don't want to buy the expansions, just spend some money in a different direction.
You've still got your Home for some reason.
So goddamn, Pokemon company just wants a lot of money.
Is it? Yeah, it does sound a bit milky.
But it's just as soon as I at first I was just like, oh, it's just an expansion pass, and I was like, well, yeah, I guess that makes sense. But then when I thought about it more, and I was like, but wait, that just means the third version doesn't exist any longer, so they're making you pay that much more money rather than waiting and getting the good version.
And it's not up until the spate of Switch re-releases, Nintendo haven't exactly been. They don't exactly do the Game Edition versions of a game, do they? A year or two after its release.
I mean, they
want to sell the original one and all its DLC.
They probably could do a third version. It just wouldn't be a third version. It would just be a bundle, I guess. Maybe slightly cheaper or whatever, if they decide to do that eventually.
I mean, yeah, the only time Ninty have actually really done that is as I say, these re-releases, like the Wii U. Mario Kart is the one, right? Whereas the Wii U DLC is included.
So yeah, that's what happened with Pokemon.
Well, unless that new Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe Edition has the DLC in it as well. I didn't know if that thing had New Super Mario Luigi or New Super Luigi Bros. U as part of it or something, because that was a whole separate product, wasn't it?
I think it might have done. I think it might have had the hard version essentially.
Okay, so that counts.
Maybe.
Yeah. So you don't get the sweet green case that it used to come in.
Vital.
Pokemon news.
Yep.
And the one bit of Microsoft news is that they've said that their first set of first-party games for Xbox Series X won't just be for Xbox Series X and PC. They will also work on the bone, the Xbox One. So they're doing cross-gen.
Mandatory cross-gen.
well, at least with their own stuff. They're like
as mandatory as them saying that like the previous games should have worked on the previous console was. I'm sure.
Well, they haven't said third parties have to adhere to this. It's just them. It's just it's them doubling down on their whole backwards compatibility thing, but they're doing some forward compatibility. I guess is that the way around?
But it's still only going to apply to like I don't know 3 games.
Yeah, maybe
probably.
it'll be like the first year, I reckon. So we might that Forza and that Halo at least,
and maybe a Gears if they get that in there in time.
Nah, it would be Gears too soon. We won't see Gears 6 in that space. It's been quite a gap between 4 and 5.
But it doesn't seem like they've had to work on the engine.
Well, no, because you know what? They probably don't actually. Yeah, because the engine is so good. It would and it runs so well on PC. It's like, okay, we would just put that on the Series X, and it would run at 60 frames at 4K and be fine, right?
Yeah, seems like it.
Do you think Microsoft will, given the power of Series X, do you think they'll have a VR thing, PlayStation style?
No, they've kind of steered away from that hard, and they're like, I think whenever it comes up, they're not that interested in that space.
Given that Half-Life Alyx, I guess we'll see what happens with that.
Yeah. Although there's some like concerns that Half-Life Alyx, the Alyx reveal was originally postponed because Boneworks came out, and Boneworks was doing more with motion than Valve had ready for their demos. So it's just and there's all kinds, so there's now a big question mark over whether Alyx is all that revolutionary when it comes out, if it will be that, right? Because Boneworks exists, and
it's still fucking Half-Life though. I mean,
it will have a higher production quality for sure, but
yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, I don't know. VR's hit a weird place in that there's not. The innovation seems to have dried up at the moment to a certain extent. It's like, Boneworks kind of introduced you like, okay, if you're not the type that gets motion sickness, it's like, here's ways to move around freely in the environment, and you can do arm over arm climbing and things like that, and it will move with you, and it's physicsy and interesting. And it's like, but motion sickness. And it's and other than that, I can't really think of many games that have actually tried to just innovate in that space since maybe like Sony tried with Astrobot and things like that to do like sit down platformers with look around mechanics that actually make sense and your part of the world stuff. Yeah, I don't know. It's in a weird place. I don't know if Microsoft are having like, oh, this might be like the Kinect kind of thoughts right now, and that the fad may die.
Yeah, fair enough. That's probably right.
That Quest, though, that Oculus Quest, is supposedly very good.
What else is going on? Nothing?
Especially now you can link it to a PC and just use it like a Rift.
That's a good idea.
It can do both. I don't know. I think that it might be wired still, but at least it means that you can buy the Quest, use it as a standalone thing, and then rig it to your more powerful PC maybe as well, and do both, which is pretty cool. I don't know. There's nothing really else much happening. It's like nothing could happen, I suppose. It's been the break. No one's been working.
Fair.
No one's been working.
They revealed the PS5 logo. Wow.
It's exactly what you think it is.
Of course it is.
They didn't even change the font. Like, not even at all. Not even a little bit.
Where's that PlayStation 3 Spider-Man font? Yeah.
I suppose I guess there was a bit of a change between 3 to 4, but I keep forgetting that happened. I sort of assumed that font's been like that for a very long time.
Yeah. I mean, the Spider-Man font was practically that font still. It wasn't that big a change between 3 and 4.
It's not quite
just
so
like slightly less
italic.
slanty.
Yeah. I suppose you could argue that Microsoft haven't changed their font since the end of the 360.
And arguably, even the PS2 logo was practically the same.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
That was cool,
That was
though.
way more square. Yeah.
Yeah, super square with that kind of weird gradient on it.
Mm.
Blue and purple.
Yeah.
PS2 was cool.
I mean, most of the consoles then had more.
More pizzazz.
I don't know if pizzazz is right. Let's go with like unique character between them, right? The consoles had more of their own stamp. You had American, Japanese, and cool. I suppose the GameCube was like just straight up Japanese, right?
Okay. I guess that's the news because there's nothing going on.
There's no news.
Yeah, it's time for what you've been playing. What you been playing, Rob?
Me?
Have you been stranding some death?
I have. My death is stranded.
Where is it?
On the beach.
Is it stuck there?
I don't know. I don't understand what the beaches are really yet. There's all these talks about. God, this game is weird. I mean, but some of it
on
in
the
a
beach.
Some of it in a good way. Some of it in a like boring way is how I would describe this. There's a lot of. It's a game of weird things that come together and like I'm not entirely sure in a cohesive way. It feels a little bit of a mess, but then most Kojima games do in their own way. It's like, so yeah, Death Stranding, Delivery Boy Simulator 2019 is
Sam Porter Bridges.
Sam Porter Bridges.
He's a porter. He ports things.
And for a company called Bridges.
And also maybe sometimes makes bridges.
Yeah. He does all these things. The only thing, I mean, this world is weird. Like everyone seems to have like just abandoned their actual names to be called like internet handles, and people with actual names only keep their first name, and then the rest is like a job title. It's really odd. Like no one seems to have like, yeah. It's just slightly odd. Like you meet the cosplayer, or as well, or the craftsman.
Classic job, cosplayer in the
post-apocalypse.
Yep.
Yeah. It's like she describes herself as cosplayer, but it's supposedly because she's a master with a sewing kit. You know, she'll make specific clothes for you. It's weird. You're carrying things from place to place and getting ranked on how well you carry the things from place to place.
She's a tailor. Sorry.
Yes.
She's a tailor, but she calls herself the cosplayer.
Kinda, yeah. And Conan's there because Conan's there.
Is he
Conan O'Brien? He's wearing an otter hat.
Host.
Yes, that one.
Conan Late Night.
No. He just hangs out. He just hangs out in the cosplayer's house.
Oh.
Yeah. I guess he
seems
would.
Like a reasonable place to be in the post-apocalypse.
Yeah. I don't really know where to start with this thing. It's just, and we touched on a little bit of it, I guess, at Game of the Year. But it's, I've put about 16, 17 hours into it at this point, and I think I'm really only scratching the surface. It's like the amount of, it's still giving me new things. I've only just got the ability to drive trucks about, although I've stolen a few in the past. And there's a whole lot of space left on my equipment rack, so I think there's a whole lot more game of this. And it's not like I'm trying to specifically go out of my way and do a lot of side stuff. I don't feel like I'm doing a lot of side stuff. I'm trying to mainline it a bit more now at this point because it's a lot of walking around, and actually getting around the world is pretty awkward.
But that's the game, right?
But that's the game, yeah. It's like there are there are bits of it that are like I kind of appreciate it. It's like you've made it difficult to get around this world, so it's about getting around it and just honing in on that. It's actually kind of all right. But then they give you vehicles that you can't really ride around the environment very well because the environment is too rocky and too terrain. There's not enough like open spaces for you to really use the vehicles, and it's like, and I feel bad when I get off my vehicle and have to leave it behind because I can't drive it down this next section. And it's like, okay, what do? I just leave it here, I guess, to be destroyed by timefall eventually, or for another player potentially to pick it up, and then I won't be able to use it on my way back. That kind of stuff. It's I don't know. It feels weird. It feels like everything feels very disposable, and it's like, or you have to go out of your way to get the materials to build things. You can't just build a thing. No, you have to go get all the metals and stuff and bring it to the thing you're building. And so you're delivering to the thing. You're delivering to the things you made, as well as to the people who want deliveries. It's a lot of that, and
you almost don't want to make things because then you're going to have to deliver things there.
Yeah, no, I'm actively like I only ever try and start building something when I think it's like, oh no, okay, this route's really annoying. I really do want this here myself. Like I'll put in the effort to actually, because I'm probably going to do this route a few times. So I'm going to put the effort in to put a bridge down here. But you could argue that most of the time you don't, because once you connect an area to the chiral network by visiting one of its like little shelters, and they connect you to the network, and they form a strand because terminology. And then once you've got that, you start your part of the map starts populating with the stuff that other players have left about. Which is actually really cool because suddenly it takes what feels like a completely lifeless world, and suddenly there's things in it. Yeah, and then it's like, oh, a player's been here, great, or another porter in the context of the world. It's like they sort of walk this weird line between saying another player did this and other porters did this. Which if they stuck to porter, that would feel a bit more in world. But and then so they left a ladder here for you, and then attaching this social network to it, kind of, so you can oh, that ladder was really helpful. I can give it loads of likes, and then hopefully the ones with lots of likes start appearing to more and more players. So their stuff becomes the ones that bubbles to the top. Although it gives you a smattering of new things as well. It's like you'll stumble upon items around that no one's used yet, so you're the first other player to have used it and things like that, which is quite nice sometimes. Or you'll stumble upon a construction zone that someone started, and they'll be like, "Oh no, I'm actually carrying some metal right now. That's fine. And this looks kind of useful. I'll contribute to your thing." And that stuff actually is pretty cool. I kind of like that quite a bit. And it's neat. Like that's. I think perhaps sometimes there could have been like more of that, like more of those systems, because it's like. The structures you can build can all be built by other players, but then sometimes there's this signage system as well, so you can put up like, oh hey, this is a rainfall area, or this is a known trouble spot, or hey, you might want a ladder here, kind of signage, which I think sticks around for much longer than the actual equipment you're putting in the world. So and some of them can be clues to things, but and how you should proceed if you're trying to get to maybe a bit of map that you just want to see what's there, which most of the time is nothing. But yeah, I kind of want more different useful signage, I suppose. Sometimes to be like, oh, how do I say this to someone else if they came this way? I don't know, because there's not a sign for that. So there's all that going on for it. The storyline, I have absolutely no cocking idea what's going on. I'm pretty sure there's a couple of cutscenes I've skipped, or like somehow not seen. Yeah, and stuff occasionally feels like it's happening out of sequence. So the I think it was one of the trailers we saw where it was like Mama's character introduction.
Yeah.
And with the floating dead baby. That's attached to her and in her lab, and it's like I've never had that sequence, and yet she talks about herself and has had the baby, and about I can't leave because of the baby. And it's like what was I supposed to have had that? I don't know where you are as a character, so was I supposed to have found your building somewhere already, so you can explain to me why you've got a baby and what that is? Or is it just a late sequence? It's like most of the characters have like an intro bit where they like introduce you and have like a little tag appear on screen saying who they are, and Die Hardman and Emily and Heartman and
so you have seen other people's introductions that you'd already seen.
Oh yeah.
It's not. I was thinking like it's not like the trailers are actually meta, like they're part of the game.
No.
You've watched the trailers before you play the game.
yeah. Well, that'd be kind of funny. But no, just Mama's talking to me like from just like as if we'd met. You know, it's just like, okay, we'll just carry on then. And like, yeah, and there's little moments like that here and there where it just feels like, or you'll unlock an ability, and then like it. I recently got the ability to get weather forecasts for when timefall might be happening, or what areas it's probably going to happen in.
That's useful.
Yeah, it is quite useful, so you can plot paths around it. And it's there's a point where like 3 different characters all told me about, hey, I've made weather forecasts available for you. Isn't that great? And then they go, by the way, you can check your weather forecast now on your cufflinks. And then I come out of that sequence and step out into the world, and then someone's immediately on the codec going, hey, don't forget to check your cufflinks so you can see what the weather report's like. It's like, I haven't had the chance yet, game. It's like 3 different characters are telling me about this thing I've not had the chance for, which I then went into the menu and then realized the game hadn't told me where in the menu that option was.
Oh, great.
And I didn't realize that you can click the right stick to view slightly different versions of the map. So you get just the map straight out, and then you click it once, and then it shows you where the chiral network the boundaries are that you currently have open, and then you can click it again, and then it gives you weather forecast mode. And it's like, and I just didn't realize that was a thing. There is a little pop-up that appears on the map if you leave it sat still for long enough, but I'm not really using that. I'm not really paying attention to that because I'm usually scrolling around, and it's just like, but it would have been nice if it was a bit more obvious, like how I accessed that data. It took me a little while before after being told 3 times to use it, that it's like, oh no, there it is. Oh, okay, interesting. There's just things around the edges where it's just like a little clunky.
But in a kind of annoying way or a forgivable kind of way.
I think that one. There's quite a lot of tooltips in the game, right? So and some of them repeat quite a lot. So you'll be wandering around the world, and you'll drive a vehicle through water, and you'll get the giant tooltip appear on the lower third of the screen saying, "Hey, when you drive vehicles through water, it uses their battery a lot quicker." And it's like, I know, you've told me every single time I've driven a vehicle through water. Or, hey, if you when you're about to fall over, if you grip both the triggers, it's like Sam can tense his muscles to steady himself. It's like, I know, that's the entire game.
That's the game.
I'm doing that a lot. It's kind of fine sometimes. I mean, I know it's possible for players to miss tooltips on occasion, but dear God, it's just doing it a lot. It's like the opposite problem of like GTA, right, where it pops a little thing on screen
and you miss it, and then you're screwed,
and then it's just screwed because you missed it.
Yeah.
So there's that, and it has got like a tips library and things like that, so you can go through and read quite a lot of information about all these things, sometimes multiple times again. But it's there, and which is nice. And there's a whole lot of transcriptions and things you can read if you're interested in the world, none of which really explain the world. It's like there's clearly something interesting to all of this. There's clearly something fascinating about how this has all been put together, like how the worlds of life and death came together at the Death Stranding. It's like, and the game doesn't really tell you to your face at any point what that event actually was, what it was like, even though like pretty much the entire population of the world would have had to have been alive at the time. No one talks about what that was at any point, which I guess makes sense, right? Because they all lived it. They don't have to talk about it.
Well, and they don't want to reveal the secret of the whole game, right? In the middle. Save that for the end.
I mean, I guess, probably. But it's like,
why is it a secret? Like, it's not normal to have like a a world or a plot or whatever, a story where everyone in the world knows about it, but the audience doesn't, and they don't explain it. That's really weird.
Yeah. So there's a lot of that, like, because they talk about, so Sam and some other characters, not everyone has this, but like there are people in the world that suffer from dooms, which is like it's not really an illness, it's just a thing you have, and there are levels of dooms that make you more or less sensitive to the world of the dead, to a point where people with higher levels can actually start manipulating some of that stuff.
Right. They've got more midichlorians.
Kind of, yeah.
Okay.
And you're fairly low level, as Sam. So you don't have these powers. You just have the ability to sort of sense BTs, a bit better than other people. And it's worth explaining that BTs are the weird sort of particly dead things that you see specters of and have hang from umbilical cords from the sky.
Strands.
No, they're actually referred to as umbilical cords.
Oh, okay.
Not strands.
Right. Got it all wrong. Because they actually look like strands of something.
Yeah, strands have 3 different meanings as far as I can tell from the terminology. They refer to the president job, because she's called Bridget Strand.
Right.
Because she wants to bring the country together, so she's called Strand. That's not her actual name. That's just, they're saying that's a job, so she's a Strand. And Amelie Strand as well. And also, a strand is the connection in the chiral network between 2 places. That's a strand. But they also call rope made of your own blood a strand.
Because, of course, that's necessary.
Yeah.
Standard hiking equipment.
No, yeah, that they sort of... So, yeah, there's this thing about, like, people with dooms, because of their connection and stuff, their blood is super important. Like, their blood can affect things from the other plane, from the other side.
Because it's full of midichlorians.
Or something like that. To the point where your blood is effectively a weapon against them, which in itself could be mechanically interesting. Because in order to use your blood as a weapon, you're using your blood, which is your health.
Right. Yeah. You don't want to lose too much blood. You're going to pass out.
Yeah, there's actually a balance. Idea. There's actually a balancing act there, which is mitigated as the game goes on by the fact that you give blood when you sleep, and you eventually get the ability to carry bags of extra blood with you.
It's like some kind of veiled vampire game.
To a point, yeah. There are grenades made out of your excrement, so there's that as well. Because your bodily fluids have effects on them as well, which I've never actually managed to use because the stealth is weird in itself. So you enter a BT area, and the whole thing sort of it's super rainy, and you get like a little sequence where that weird snappy flower contraption turns on to tell you, hey, there's beached things or BTs in the area. And you're effectively then using which direction this thing is flapping and what pattern it's doing to try and determine where they are. And you get that thing to scan, which can visually reveal them some of the time. Most of the time, in fairness, as long as you're pointing in the right direction. And you're effectively just creeping around trying not to make noise, because they will come after noise. And then, which works mostly fine, and it is quite tense actually sometimes, because the music all gets very oppressive and and some creepy synths going on, and it's you're trying to. It becomes a bit of a puzzle more than anything, because they don't really move around. They sort of have little areas where they're hanging out in, so you're more like trying to find, okay, what's actually the path through this area to get to where I need to go without getting too close and drawing their attention. And most of the time there is a path to do that, so I haven't really experienced too much BT combat, and thank heavens for that, because all of the combat in this game is bad. Just really, really, really bad.
I mean, I think it's kind of an interesting idea that like you can't kill anyone because they'll go nuclear.
Oh yeah. Yes, that's a key detail you learn very early in the game as well. Yeah, when people die, you have to incinerate them, or burying them in tar apparently works as well.
Okay.
Otherwise, they go into necro status and they eventually blow up with the power of a nuke, which is how most of the world has just been destroyed.
Yeah,
But not only that, there's like the nuke crater that they leave. Like there's some kind of residual effect where just nothing can live in that zone anymore. Like
Right.
plants and stuff can't grow there. Even though people theorize that the timefall should have accelerated the growth of plants and things in those areas. They try and they have something to it. There's mechanics in the world.
But the combat, which is all non-lethal necessarily, is bad.
Say that again, sorry. I missed.
So the combat, which is all non-lethal, right, is bad.
Yes, yeah. Well, yeah, it never feels like it flows right. So against the BTs, what they do is when you get too close and they hear you, they start sending out hands in the floor. Like the area around them becomes like tar on the floor, and these hands start coming towards you. And if you get caught by the hands, well, effectively all of your cargo falls off you, which is a pain in the ass in the first place.
Right, yeah.
And then, but you've got to like kind of just go, okay, sod that. I've got to try and get out of this situation and like shake off the hands and walk to the edge of the pool of tar, and then you're okay. But that takes endurance and stamina, which are two different things. And if you start to run out of them, basically you get dragged under. And when that happens, normally I reload. Because what happens is you then go through this, what is actually pretty cool visual sequence where you get dragged through the tar to somewhere, usually quite some distance away from where you just were, in a sort of like, hey, the camera's like goes first person and you can see yourself sort of being dragged through the environment to where this thing happens. And then this big old monster comes out that you're supposed to try and kill with your blood grenades or things like that. Except the grenades seem to do like practically no damage to these things. So you hush your entire stash at them and maybe you'll survive and you'll come back and like the tar will go away or whatever, and you'll be able to then work your way back to where you got dragged under and recover all your cargo. Maybe. What happens to me most of the time if I try and engage with that is I just get one hit by this huge monster because I can't seem to figure out how to dodge it properly. And you go through this weird sequence underwater called the Seam, where you find yourself and repatriate your body back to the world, and then you kind of just wake up nearby where everything happened anyway, except all your stuff's probably highly damaged now. I mean, and there's a whole load of dead fish about because stranding, and it's just weird. It's like I just don't want to engage in it because it's clunky and feels bad, and it's like it's a huge headache. So it's actually just easier just to reload, like save frequently. Manually save frequently because the game lets you do that when you're not in danger, and then just repeat the BT area and try not to screw up, which is mostly not. I don't screw up that often. It's not that difficult, but there's the occasional moment where I can't see where one is, and so I'm trying to creep by it, and I don't think there's any line of sight to the BT, which I suppose doesn't matter because it tries to hear you, I guess. And all of a sudden a hand just comes out of nowhere, and I'm like, where the hell did that come from? And like it has that stealthy. Stealth has problems every now and then in games, and this is that, and that extends to the human antagonists as well, the mules, which is probably the dumbest idea this game has in some ways, in that it's in a game filled with crazy ideas. It's like the mules aren't really bad people; they're just people that are obsessed with the idea of making deliveries to the point where they will steal any cargo so they can deliver it themselves.
Right, they just love to deliver packages.
They love delivering packages. They're high on packages to the point where they formed their own little weird package postal cult and create like camps with orange lights about the environment and like hang out and steal cargo of people walking through. But see, these are set up by the game at the start as like, oh hey, you can stealth your way through these, and sometimes you'll have orders where you need to recover stolen cargo from the mules, so you've got to go into their camps and do it. And it's like, oh, be all stealthy, you don't really get spot. And it's like, but the stealth doesn't really work for those. It's like they'll just see you, Like it's hard. You don't know what their like vision range is or anything like, because there's not really any on-screen indicators of where they can see and where they don't see. So invariably, what happens is you'll be creeping around, and then someone somewhere will just go, it will seen them. The music will change to let you know that you're now in combat, and then the entire camp just swarms your position. So you end up having to deal with pretty much every single person in the area. And the way you do that is either with because you don't really fight back. You have some punches, but they're kind of ineffective, and some enemies it just doesn't work against at all. Or otherwise you're just standing there with a bit of rope out, one of your strands, and hoping and waiting for them to attack you, and hoping the prompt to parry it comes up on screen, which it doesn't all the time. Because if you parry them, then you can push them and turn them around so their backs to you, so you can do the bind them with the strand with their back to you. And you just like
hog-tied type.
Yeah, and once they're hog-tied, they're kind of out of the picture, which is fine, as long as they're knocked out as well, so they don't untie themselves. And like it's just that doesn't, as I say, that system doesn't work all the time, because while you're waiting for someone to parry you, the other enemies will will surround you. And so while you're trying to parry one attack, you might get hit by something from the other side.
Yeah. And
because the camera's so close, it's like, you can't really do that. So eventually you get like you get a bowler gun that basically can wrap them up from afar.
That seems to be the main way, right?
But your ammo for that is quite limited unless you're carrying multiple guns, or until you eventually level them up, or just find higher level versions of that have more ammo. But then it's like, it can be quite a tedious ordeal, or it can just go horribly wrong and you've not got anything, and you'll get punched a few times and you'll lose consciousness, and then all your stuff will be stolen. So you've got to go back into the camp anyway to get all of your stuff, let alone the thing you were recovering.
It seems
which is also not that fun. So
it seems like one of those games where like the core gameplay isn't that fun at first, but then you get upgrades and you get stuff to a point that makes it bearable and then fine, but that takes away the actual game.
To a point, yeah. It's like these things don't, especially with the mules. I think the mules are just ill-conceived. They don't really work. They're just a hassle, and they're not fun to fight against. It doesn't feel good going in and jacking their stuff. To return it to where it's supposed to be. It's just a roadblock. It's like what the game does right is the roadblock of the environment. The environment itself being interesting to traverse is what the game does right. And even then, I would say it's not Breath of the Wild interesting.
No.
It's not. You're not going to go over a cliff and see like, oh, there's a thing I need to investigate, because pretty much there's pretty much nothing to investigate.
Nothing there.
It's just desolation.
More desolation, that looks like what was behind you.
Yeah, well, I don't know. It gets a bit more varied. Like the second area is a lot bigger, and has like little mini biomes in it, I suppose. It's just a weird thing, and I guess like all that stuff I talked about, like the stranding and the beaches and how characters can do this and why any of this is happening. Is just, everyone seems to. Everyone says it's all connected, and they do that kind of stuff, but no, it is a plot point that no one actually understands why any of this works. But they're still harnessing a lot of it, if you see what I mean. Like this chiralium system, the chiral network. It's like they don't really know what any of it is, or why it happens, or why the crystals happen to look like hands coming out of the ground. But hey, we can use this stuff for stuff somehow. And Bridge Babies and Mads Mikkelsen. I've seen a lot of Mads Mikkelsen in flashbacks, but I still have no idea what he's about.
I guess you don't find that out until the end of the game when it dumps everything on you.
I guess. Yeah, Mad. It's nice in that respect, because it's like, hey, Mads can act. Those sequences, like most of the sequences you see, are just him. Like there's no one else, just him. And some of that stuff is like really cool, like him coming in and having a bit of a wine tasting with himself. That's
As you
great.
do.
I,
Yeah.
I love that. You just sort of go, it's just like having a sip of wine, and it's like, not bad. in the only the way, and you sort of look to the camera at that point, and it's just there's stuff like that where it's like, all right, this game's clearly got some talent behind it because it can pull off subtlety like that. It can, and then you'll get a side storyline that exists to try and give you some sort of emotional impact, but is set up very quickly, has a very long or an excessively long someone telling their life story at you that is supposed to make you care, and then you go deliver them somewhere and it's like, oh, everything happy story, and it's like, no, you didn't earn any of that. It's like, it's just, you tried to ham fist some emotion into this thing, and it just it feels so out of place and weird. It's
not quite Yakuza level side missions.
Yeah, I'm not building tiny little toy cars to race around plastic tracks.
Exactly. Running your own companion bar.
And when I say side mission, I mean I delivered some packages, and
Exactly.
It's just one of those packages happened to be a live human at one point.
Have you delivered any pizza yet?
I have delivered a pizza. I actually thought the concept for that was kind of genius. Like, in a game about delivery, it's like, and not damaging cargo. Oh, let's make a challenge about not tipping cargo. It's like, your pizza must be flat, otherwise it gets ruined. And it's like, oh, that's fine. I did, because I had a truck and the route was pretty easy.
Oh, okay.
I just put it in the back of the truck and I was like, oh, let's go. Truck's not going to fall over.
They possibly could have come up with a slightly more important cargo that you need to keep stable than a pizza. Well, because obviously you don't even need to keep that flat. I mean, like, the toppings stay on pizzas at quite a severe angle, really.
I mean, if you want to talk about the odd thematics of this game, like, even more, it's like one of the places I stumbled upon relatively recently was a farm that was trying to make Timefall work to their advantage, and they grow a lot of wheat.
That actually sounds interesting.
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting thing. It's not really a huge thing. You just visit the farm. They're there. You get a tiny little bit of like text, which is pretty much as long as my description just then, and a conversation to that effect. And it's like, all right, no, that's actually cool. That's some world building right there. It's like, you don't need to. Type thing. And then you realize all they're making with it is beer. Like, they're taking this wheat and just doing nothing but making beer.
I mean, what else would you do with it?
It's wheat. You could make all kinds of food out of it.
But beer is the classic. It's like, that's it keeps really well, and it's got all these extra properties. It's not like bread.
But it's made of Timefall, is the other problem. Like, all the water in this world is like probably super dudgy and like kills you. Maybe.
Yeah, I guess including the water into the beer is probably the problematic part.
The Timefall porter sounds good.
It's not like the plants aren't absorbing a shit ton of water.
Yeah, who knows how the world really works? But it's like, you go do that, and it's just beer, and it's like, and then you go, as you say, you find the cosplayer, and like, it's like, why do these people who are like in the middle of nowhere like not just be concentrating on keeping themselves alive? Like, why am I delivering a pizza in this supremely dangerous world? It's so weird. And yet I can't really stop playing it. I don't understand what's happening here. It is the most like downtime of downtime games.
Death Stranding has the draw.
It does.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. And I really don't understand why. There's a lot to hate about this game, but it's just so strange that I can't look away. It's like a car crash happening. It's that you get delivery bots that hum to themselves, which is actually probably the funniest thing in the game. It's like the first time you create a delivery bot, it comes out of the floor, looks a little bit like those cow things for Metal Gear Solid 4.
Oh yeah.
And then just wanders off going to itself. It's like, okay, that's genius.
If they have delivery bots, what do they need porters for?
Oh, because the bots are bad. Like the stuff gets like highly damaged. They've only just invented these things. Yeah,
whatever, those Boston Dynamics things.
Yeah, they've only just invented these things supposedly, and like to actually be able to walk around the world themselves. And it's like they perform better if the world's roads have been rebuilt by the players in it at that moment, or what you can see. So if the roads are in place, then they do a better job delivering. But most of the roads are rarely in place. It's a really strange thing. I don't love it. I don't hate it. I'm just playing it. And that's Death Stranding.
And that's Death Stranding.
I assume there's loads more of it.
Sure,
you
we'll
might
find
hear
out.
about that for a while.
What's next?
Let's hit Soul Calibur 6. I've been playing quite a bit of that as well.
Soul Calibur.
A Tale of Swords. Eternally retold.
Yeah, at least 6 times.
At least 6 times.
At least 6 times retold.
So, yeah, there's a sort of odd story behind Soul Calibur 6 in that, like, it's possibly the one supposedly. So I've read about in a few places. This actually had a lower budget than Soul Calibur 5 and things like that. So it's like it's been made with a lot less resource supposedly, and you can sort of tell around the edges. It's like the story mode is mostly text based and stuff like that. There's no like video-y sort of nicely done cutscenes as far as I can tell, like the previous games might have attempted. It's just pretty much about the fighting. It's like just a repackaged, slightly prettied up Soul Calibur game with some new mechanics and some new systems in play. But boy, do I love me some Soul Calibur! Like this is I'm loving it. Like it really is just fantastic to play. I've gone back to my I bought the deluxe version so I could play as Tira. She plays a little differently from how she did in previous games, but still a lot of fun to play. Still really interesting, and I've won a good 75% of my online matches so far because I actually kind of want to play this online. Like it's fun. It's just fun. It has that sort of like it's not super combo heavy in that. I mean, yeah, there are combos in it, and you can do them if you're super pro. But it doesn't really matter if it, like, to me, at the level I'm playing, if you're not that way. It's more about timing your hits and knowing when to guard and knowing when to use all the systems and of various elements. It's like you can be just as successful just by knowing when to time your attack. How to. Just like not necessarily going all out on a punish when someone whiffs an attack, just knowing that you can with a specific move at that point of time. And I think I prefer that. I think I prefer the like to and fro that Soul Calibur has rather than the some other fighting games where it just feels like you can just be utterly destroyed in a couple of nasty combos. I'm just having a really good time with it. I think I'm playing on PC, and I think the PC port's not perfect. It does hitch every now and then, which is kind of a problem for a fighting game. And that's not because my system is stressed. I've checked this out, and the stress on my system is usually pretty low when playing this game at max settings. I'm only playing at 1080p. I'm not trying to ramp it above that. And I wouldn't say it like it's like a huge step up from the look of Soul Calibur 5, which was last gen. Everything's a bit crisper here and there, and some of the details are here, but there are certain things that are still fairly low poly, and I don't think they've been too creative this time with some of the environments you're fighting in and things like that. It's kind of like aesthetically like it's Soul Calibur. They've just made one of those. To the point, actually, where there's no alternate costumes anymore. Like, the characters don't have 2 costumes like they used to. There's only 1 costume that comes out, and they expect you to make any more that you want using the character customization stuff. So, I don't really know what to say about it, really. It's like the story stuff is kind of a bit RPG-like now, in that you level up your character, and you get stronger, and you find better weapons. You cough a bit. You can go off the beaten path to do side missions, which are other fights. Some of those other fights have modifiers, so it's got that little hint of that Soul Calibur 2 Edgemaster stuff. Just a hint. It's like you might go into a fight and the certain moves are totally ineffective against certain people, so you have to use moves of a certain type against them. or the floor might be super slippery, so everyone moves at light speed, which is nuts. Yeah, so or there might be stages where like you're poisoned, or like or you're against a lot of enemies at once. Well, not in the same fight, but like in a sequence. So it's got a little bit of that, like, oh hey, we're setting up little challenges for you to do, which I think keeps a solo game going. Yeah, it's good. All in all, it's good. I'll be playing it for a while, I think. Soul Calibur 6. And on games that are probably more interesting to the both of you, I've been playing Wargroove on Game Pass, which is Advance Wars.
But not as good.
Unfortunately, not quite as good. It's pretty close, though. It's just like it. Yeah, it's Advance Wars. It has that same. It has pretty much the same like unit structure and what they're capable of. It's pretty much the same. Sort of style is almost the way that you when things go into a fight, it does a little cutaway, and then you see them fight with like a split down the middle of the screen. It's like it's the way that the combat works, where you do more damage when you're when you've got higher health and all that stuff. It's like it's following all of that pattern for sure. To the towns that you capture give you money. It's got those, but it does try and add its own little wrinkles here and there. For instance, like when you're capturing, roll it back a step. Like, don't know what Advance Wars is. Strategy game. Would you call it strategy, or is it more tactics? It's like tactics, I suppose, but without the character leveling and all that stuff that's normally associated with tactics games.
Turn-based strategy game, like an RTS, but not on real time.
Yeah, but simplified with a grid, I guess, rather than having like real positioning and the terrain does matter still, but it's not. It's sort of like boiled down, really. So it's got a few major changes from Advance Wars and how its mechanics have worked. Like towns can fight back. They sort of act like units that are stationary. So they also give you. So in order to capture one, you don't just put a dude in it for a couple of turns. You have to fight it and whittle down its health, and then it becomes neutral, and then a character can take it over as part of their turn, and it only takes one turn to do. They're and they have their own health and things like that, and their own health goes up over time slowly. So you have to plan that a little differently. It's a little bit like the last of the Advance Wars games in that there's commander units, which if the commander unit dies, you lose the game. But they are stronger and have their own abilities, which are called grooves. Which in a game about like sort of medieval / fantasy settings, like calling your special powers grooves just feels a little out of place. How would they know whether they're in their the phrase being in their groove or whatever wouldn't exist.
Yeah, but it's not like this is real medieval. It's
No,
not like
but
it's
you know what I mean.
medieval.
It's just a weird. It's just an oddly out of place thing. It's like if they could have called the game Wargroove and made it funky, about like DJs battling it off or something, and it's It also has one of those like storylines where it's like the deaths of everyone apart from the main characters are considered just that's fine. We can just kill off these other people as long as the main characters. It's like, no, we don't care about. We're just having a fight for fun, where hundreds of people die. It's slightly weird like that, and because they actually do die in this game, right? Like because the little sort of like their corpse sort of turns into ghosts and stuff like that when their unit dies on the battlefield. It's a bit weird tonefully like that, but it's actually pretty good, really. It's like if I'm getting my long overdue Advance Wars fix out of it, to the point where I've now reached a mission where I don't know how to win, which always happens. It's just one of those where it's like the odds are hugely stacked against you, and it's deal with it, overcome those bad odds, and I haven't found a way to overcome those bad odds. So I might be stuck. It's a campaign mission, a mandatory one. So I can't get through. So I might soon be done with Wargroove. But it's good. I would have preferred an Advance Wars, though.
Yep, clearly.
I would have preferred some of that funky music.
Yeah, obviously. Even the last game's sort of grunge funky music. Less cheesy funky music.
I liked the last one. It's clearly not a lesser game than Advance Wars DS. But it's like I liked what they did with that last game. It was fun. What was it called? Dark something?
Well, depends whether you're remembering the American name or not.
Oh, I have no idea what I'm remembering. I just can't remember what that last one really...
Ruin...
Days of Ruin.
Days of Ruin.
That's it, yeah.
And the other one is Dark something.
Oh, what, the American one is Dark something? Or...
I think.
Right. Got to save that flower, whatever it was.
No, you have to not... You have to
the flower's bad?
Yeah, you get infected by the flowers. It's that stupid flower disease that only teenagers get for some reason.
Of course, because everyone has to be a sexy teenager in an anime game.
Not really in this one, though. There's only like you and that other girl you find. That's pretty much it for the teenagers, unlike DS, where everyone is a teenager. Even the 30-year-old people might well be teenagers in that game.
That's the thing about anime, isn't it? It's like 30-year-olds, it's like, oh, you're well old. It's like, all right, granddad, you're 30. 30. So that's what I've been doing. Is Dan still there?
Hello, I am here.
He's still there. He just died for a moment.
I was trying to make Danny Brown sounds. Anyway.
I couldn't hear any Danny Brown sounds.
Jack!
Well, now I've heard them.
Okay. Zach, what have you been playing?
Well, I played quite a lot of stuff. I think I might finally have entered a phase where I'm just actually going to play different things and not get hung up on playing like that indecision / getting too hung up on one thing, I guess.
Right.
It's like it's either you're super on one thing or you're just like overwhelmed with options and then you just go back to the one thing. That's how I feel like sometimes.
Yeah, that happens.
But I think I may have finally had a short period of time where I'm like, I can actually just go and play different games that I just feel like playing. So I played quite a lot of different things. But like, I mean, not anything new. Well, one thing new, I guess. One thing new, which we also made a video of, was Wizards of Legend.
Mm.
So you can go and watch that on YouTube. It's like a dungeon-esque, dungeon crawling roguelite type thing. You just go around and magic the shit out of stuff instead of shooting it.
Has that expanded much more than we saw?
Well, I finished the achievement for the grind achievement for getting all the gems. So now I can spend money. But mostly all I've spent that money on is the outfits because they cost 75 each, and there's like I don't know how many there are, 20 maybe. So that's like all of that money. Basically, I've just spent on outfits and not any more skills yet. Still, but yeah, I still haven't really actually played it that much. So I might go back and do some more now that I've actually got through the grind. And I feel like I'm getting slightly better at it, which is the important thing. I might actually be able to finish a run at some point.
Yeah, it's very quick, isn't it?
Yeah.
How the combat works. It's quick, and at least in co-op, maybe it's not so bad in single player. It's quite hard to see sometimes.
Well, I think you probably weren't helped by being beige. I feel like that's actually the trade-off of that, because it doesn't have any negative effects. It's both positive, and you get defense and armor.
Yeah, except it's color.
Except it's beige, so you can't fucking keep track of yourself.
I did keep thinking I was you quite a lot, even though you're bright blue in that video. And it's just like, why am I looking at? Oh, right, because the blue guy tends to look like a player, right?
Yeah. I don't know. I think I'm trying to remember what colours I actually, because I've unlocked a bunch of them, and some of them I'm like, I'm not going to use that. That's just ridiculous. Why would you want to move faster? That's all. You already move real fast, and it's not like movement is that important apart from for the dodge, but that's like a set speed, so that's not. So I was like, I'm not going to use that. I think I used the other blue outfit, the like light blue one, because that gives you attack and defense instead of defense and armor. I'm not sure really what the difference between armor and defense is, but whatever.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So I use that.
Maybe armor is effective against physical attacks, but like when
Yeah, but
things
none
try
of the
and
attacks
poke
in that
you-
game. Oh, I suppose some of
There's some pokey
yeah,
enemies.
I suppose some of the enemies are actually physical.
Yeah,
Your attacks aren't physical. Even the melee ones.
I guess. No,
The ones that are classed as melee are still just magic.
Wind.
So yeah, maybe now I've unlocked most, or I feel like I probably only need to do like maybe one more run, and I'll. Because also you can only buy 3 of the outfits at a time, so you have to do a run to restock the shop. So I feel like maybe 1 or 2 more runs, I will have bought all the outfits that you can get, and then I can start investing in skills and maybe find some different skills that work better or differently, or make some kind of better combo than the bog standard one that I've been using. Because there is certain reasons, like to. I mean, there's an achievement, I guess, but there's also a thing where there's one of the special rooms that spawn, like the shops or whatever. One of those can sometimes be it's basically a combo challenge where, like, in order to get a free bonus item, you have to do a combo that it does a certain number of hits within a stun.
Oh, okay.
So you stun the thing, and then you have until the stun runs out to combo it. And if you reach the target number, you just get free stuff, basically. And I did it once. Well, I did it like the first time I saw that, I did it. But then every other time I've done that, I haven't had the skills. Like, my base set doesn't have a long enough combo to actually get to the number. So I'm like, you would actually have to build a different. So there must be better combos, is basically what I'm saying. I must be able to make a better skill set that can actually do a better combo than the one I have at the moment, once I actually buy some more skills. So I don't know. Yeah, maybe I'll get through some more of that. And then all the other stuff I played, well, I played 2019's Game of the Year.
Of course.
Went back to that some.
I've been listening to more Game of the Year stuff from other outlets. It's like, it sounds like we probably should have played Outer Wilds.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
I think I literally got confused between Outer Wilds and the Outer Worlds. I didn't.
I think that's happened a lot.
Yeah. I think that was the problem with that game.
Yeah, maybe it got swallowed up by people playing the one that was, bigger, I guess.
Yeah,
quote unquote. But yeah, that game sounds rad. I want to check it out.
Like the one we've missed. Yeah.
But I played 2019.
Yeah.
I played a bunch. I went back to a save in Oxford, not included, in case you haven't been paying attention to our Game of the Year. Went back to a save that I'd played a little bit, but not very far, which is probably the best way to go back to that game, because if you come into something where you're gonna like, you have to try and remember what you were even doing.
And what was your plan?
And you wouldn't have thought that would be that difficult, because the game isn't really that, complicated or anything, but like, it's sort of a general reassessment of like all the resources you have and like what the map's like and like what you are sort of heading towards in general.
But sometimes I think that's helpful. Like I've found that with Wargroove, right, where I've returned to a save of a situation that's been bad, and then been all like reassessed it and been like, oh no, I can deal with this.
That's slightly different than like coming back after a long time, though.
Yeah, I guess
it's not like it's a fresh look at a situation you're in, rather than trying to remember what you were even doing.
Sure, but you still analyze. Okay, where are my units? Here's the units? What's the money situation like?
But yeah, I went back to a save and did some slightly different things, which I guess is what I need to do in that game. I messed around with trying to exploit the stupid natural farming techniques to grow. It was mainly the reason that I'd originally started playing this map is I'd chosen the Badlands asteroid, because this one specific type of map generates like big chunks of uninterrupted rock rather than like caves all over the place like most of the other biomes have. So these huge chunks of just pretty much just rock, which you can really easily exploit with that creature that can plant seeds, so that you can grow natural plants that don't require any resources.
Sure, yeah.
So you use these huge areas of rock to just create natural farm rooms, because you need the natural tiles to be able to do that. And because there's these huge areas, it's really easy to just get a nice, consistent room full of natural tiles.
Oh, I thought you said piles. Like, now I was thinking, no, you've got natural piles.
No. So yeah, I did that. But then the real trick with that is, like, it's not just having the rock, it's also maintaining the temperature or whatever that the plants need. So I wanted to grow a bunch of the cold plants, and I was like, okay, this naturally occurring rock is like 30 degrees, so I'll have to cool it down to like -5 or whatever. But then, that's not actually a complicated thing. It's just like you build a pipe, which you run cold shit through, and then you just wait for it to eventually get down to temperature. But then I made the mistake on this map, which has now become the big problem, except it's like it's not a problem you can solve very quickly. I made the mistake of accidentally using up all my dirt on like food early on in the game.
Your filthy dirt.
Because you need dirt to do research. And
Right.
so I can't actually research. And the only other way that like I was like, oh, my dirt's running now. I'll probably need to think about launching rockets to a nearby place where I can get dirt, and I can get more dirt to keep growing these plants. And so initially I was like, well, that's not actually a problem because I've got this cold farm coming up, and that's going to start making food, so I can like just stop growing all these dirt plants when the dirt runs out, and that'll be fine. But then I'd forgotten that I hadn't actually researched the rockets yet. So I couldn't launch the rockets to go get more dirt. I was like, oh shit, that's actually kind of more of a problem because now I'm having to like, how can I even make dirt? How can I get any dirt at all? Because normally, well, the first thing I had to do was like, normally I use, when you run the dirty bathroom water out from the bathrooms, you run it through a filter and it filters out the crap and makes clean water again, obviously, because that's what filters are for. But that leaves polluted dirt, which is a specific kind. And then normally the way I deal with it now, because this is an option that it got introduced, was you can get this one type of creature, this sort of crab thing, that eats the polluted dirt and just makes sand. It then basically filters the polluted dirt into sand.
Right.
Which is nice, because then you don't have to deal with all the germs and shit on the polluted dirt.
Mm.
So that's what I was normally doing. But the other way, originally, what you do is you take the polluted dirt and you compost it, and then that would turn it into regular dirt. So now I've had to basically move all the crabs out of the filtration room and be like, no, stop eating all the polluted dirt. I need that. So I'm having to turn that into dirt. And then it's like, well, how else can I get more polluted water to run through the filters to create more polluted dirt so I can get more dirt? So I'm like, okay, now I have to start using algae terrariums again, which I'd stopped using ages ago because I had moved on to better oxygen sources because the algae terrariums produce polluted water. So I'm like, I can use those to make the oxygen, and then as a byproduct get the polluted water, which then I can filter to get the polluted dirt, which I can then compost to get regular dirt. Or I've been also considering I could
So polluted water filters into polluted dirt somehow?
But the water comes out as well, obviously.
Okay.
It's a separate byproduct.
Okay. Yeah.
But then I was like, okay, what else could I do? Well, I could.
Water to dirt. So is it just dirt in the water?
Well, that's what polluted water means, right?
It's like
it's water with crap in it.
it's polluted with just algae. It's not dirt.
Well, it's not necessarily algae.
Isn't that like polluted algae or whatever you say? Like the algae was making water and was making polluted water.
Well, if you
somehow
think
has
about
dirt in
the
it.
algae terrarium, what you're doing is you're putting in algae and water, and you're getting out oxygen and polluted water. So, like,
Right,
the algae is clearly like decaying into oxygen, I guess, because it's not like the algae is growing. It's not like a farm. You're digging the algae out of the environment, shoving it in this thing, and then somehow that's turning into oxygen.
Okay.
So I guess you're sort of killing the algae, and that's what's left over in the polluted water.
Making dirt somehow. Yeah. Okay.
And
All right. I'll suspend for now.
Or if it's the bathroom water, obviously that's where the dirt comes from. You know where that comes from.
No, there's that kind of dirt.
Yeah, dirt all over the place. So, but then I was also thinking, well, maybe I could just skip the whole algae terrarium part of this process, because if you heat algae to 125 degrees, it just turns into dirt. So now I'm thinking, like, maybe I can make basically a cooker. I just heat a room up to over 125 degrees and just chuck a bunch of algae in there. So I don't know. That's been my sudden challenge. But it's not actually, it's like, as I said, it's a very slow challenge. If you're going to do it via the polluted water method, that's going to take quite a long time because you'd get really tiny amounts of polluted dirt out of it. But cooking off a whole bunch of algae would be quicker, but, super inefficient. And as always, that's my my one problem is inefficiency. Although arguably running out of dirt before you've done all the research was pretty inefficient. So whoops. So yeah, there's that. And that was also the other reason I was playing that map, was because that was one of the maps I used the like external tool that can show you what's on the map beforehand.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So I had actually picked that specifically for its arrangement of like geysers and where the biomes are and stuff. So once I looked that up again on the external website, I was like, oh yeah, I remember what I was attempting to do with this map, apart from the natural farming. So that's that. I did that quite a lot. I also played a little bit more of the Minecraft thing that I was doing.